Beloved, listen to me very carefully today, because this message will explain why your life feels quiet, lonely, and misunderstood right now. Some of you are asking God, why did my circle become smaller? Why did familiar doors suddenly close? Why do I feel separated when I'm praying for increase? Let me tell you something that will shock your spirit. God never blesses a distracted person. God never prospers a divided heart. Before God releases financial overflow, He first releases divine isolation. Isolation is not punishment. Isolation is preparation. Before God made Abraham wealthy, He removed him from his father's house. Before Joseph ruled Egypt's economy, he was isolated in a prison. Before David wore a crown, he was alone in the wilderness. Why? Because God must separate you from voices that cannot go where He is taking you. Right now, God is not rejecting you, He is repositioning you. Some friendships ended not because you were wrong, but because they could not survive your next level. When God is about to trust you with money, He first tests your discipline, obedience, and inner life. Money magnifies what is already inside you. If pride is inside you, money will destroy you. If wisdom is inside you, money will establish you. When God begins to isolate you, it is not because you are losing value, it is because your value is increasing. Promotion in God's kingdom often begins with separation. And separation often feels like rejection to the human heart. Think about real life. When a company is about to promote an employee into a higher role, they stop being part of casual office gossip. They are removed from small talk, included in private meetings, and trusted with confidential matters. From the outside, it looks like isolation. From the inside, it is preparation. In the same way, when God is about to promote you, He quietly removes you from environments that no longer match your future responsibility. In daily life, you see this pattern everywhere. A student preparing for a major exam slowly withdraws from constant hangouts, parties, and distractions. Friends may say, "You've changed," but the truth is, focus has increased. That isolation is not loneliness, it is alignment with a goal. God does the same before promotion. He pulls you away from constant noise because greatness requires concentration. What people call boring seasons are often the most productive ones in heaven's eyes. Isolation is a sign that God is protecting you from becoming familiar with what could limit you. Familiarity kills growth. When everyone has access to you, everyone also has influence over you. God isolates you so your decisions are shaped by His voice, not by opinions. Think of an athlete before a championship. Coaches limit social interactions, control diet, manage rest, and create strict routines. The athlete may feel cut off, but that restriction is what produces peak performance. In the same way, divine isolation is God's training camp for promotion. Many people confuse isolation with punishment, but punishment drains strength, while isolation builds it. When God isolates you, He is strengthening your inner life. You learn to make decisions without applause. You learn to trust God without validation. You learn to stand without constant emotional support. These lessons are essential before promotion because higher levels bring heavier pressure. God will never promote you to a level where your character cannot sustain you. Look at daily relationships. Sometimes you notice that certain conversations no longer excite you. Gossip feels heavy. Complaining feels draining. This is not arrogance, it is maturity. God is lifting your appetite. Just as a child outgrows toys, a promoted spirit outgrows small talk. Isolation begins when your hunger changes. You no longer feel fulfilled by what once entertained you. God is signaling that you are ready for more. Isolation also teaches discipline. When fewer people are around, excuses disappear. You either grow or you stagnate. Think of a freelancer or entrepreneur working alone before success. There is no boss watching, no team pushing. Discipline becomes self-driven. Those lonely hours build habits that later sustain success. God isolates you so obedience becomes personal, not performative. promotion requires internal governance, not external pressure. Another daily example is relocation. Sometimes a job opportunity forces someone to move to a new city where they know no one. The loneliness is intense, but so is the growth. Independence forms, skills sharpen, confidence rises. That physical isolation mirrors spiritual isolation. God moves you away so you can discover who you are without leaning on familiar crutches. Promotion demands self-awareness. Isolation also reveals who you truly are. When the crowd disappears, masks fall off. You confront your fears, motives, and weaknesses. This is uncomfortable but necessary. In quiet seasons, God edits your heart. He removes pride, impatience, and insecurity. Promotion without inner healing becomes destruction. That is why God works on you in private before showing you in public. People often misunderstand your isolation. They may say you think you're better than them, or that you've become distant. But elevation always creates distance. Mountains are never found in crowded places. They stand alone, visible because of their height. God is not making you distant, He is making you distinct. Promotion requires distinction. Isolation also increases sensitivity. When noise reduces, perception increases. You hear God more clearly. You notice opportunities others overlook. You sense when to move and when to wait. In everyday life, silence improves focus. In spirituality, silence sharpens direction. Promotion requires accuracy, and accuracy is born in quiet places. Sometimes isolation is forced through disappointment. People leave, support fades, plans collapse. This is not random. God uses disappointment to detach you emotionally from systems that cannot carry you forward. When a ladder breaks, it is often because God is teaching you to fly. Promotion is not about climbing human systems. It is about aligning with divine timing. Isolation is also where vision matures. Dreams become strategies. Ideas become plans. Faith becomes action. In busy seasons, dreams stay abstract. In isolated seasons, they become concrete. Many successful people will tell you their biggest breakthroughs were birthed in lonely seasons where no one was cheering. God isolates you because promotion requires vision that is not crowd dependent. When isolation shows up in your life, it is heaven's signal that you are being trusted with more. God does not isolate those He plans to abandon. He isolates those He plans to reveal. The silence you are experiencing is not emptiness, it is incubation. What feels like being hidden is Act 2. Ally being positioned. What feels like delay is actually development. There is a hidden principle that many people struggle to understand. Before God adds anything new to your life, He first removes something old. Removal is never random and it is never cruel. It feels painful only because humans are emotionally attached to what God is finished using. In daily life, when a farmer prepares land for a new harvest, the first thing he does is clear the field. Old crops are uprooted, weeds are pulled out, stones are removed. To an untrained eye, it looks like destruction, but to a farmer, it is preparation. God works the same way. Before He rewards you, He removes what would contaminate the blessing. Think about how life works when you are being upgraded. When a phone storage is full, no new app can be installed until old files are deleted. The deletion feels inconvenient, but it creates space for something better. God removes relationships, routines, and habits not to hurt you, but to create capacity. Many people pray for reward without realizing they are already full of what no longer fits their future. Sometimes God removes people. This is one of the hardest forms of preparation because humans equate presence with loyalty. But in daily life, not everyone who starts with you can finish with you. When a company promotes an employee into leadership, they are often removed from friendships within the team. Conversations change. Boundaries increase. It feels lonely, but it is necessary. God removes certain people because they are connected to your past level, not your future responsibility. God also removes comfort. Comfort is dangerous because it creates dependency. In everyday life, muscles only grow when they are stretched beyond comfort. Athletes do not improve by staying relaxed, they improve by pushing through resistance. God removes comfort zones so your faith can develop. If everything stayed easy, you would never know what you are capable of handling. Sometimes God removes routine. You wake up one day and what used to work no longer works. The same effort produces less result. This frustration is not failure, it is transition. In daily life, when software becomes outdated, it stops supporting new functions. God disrupts routine to force you into innovation. The reward you are praying for requires a new way of thinking, and old routines cannot carry new results. God also removes your sense of control. Humans love predictability, but growth thrives in uncertainty. Think of a child learning to walk. The parent lets go of the child's hand. To the child, it feels like abandonment. In reality, it is training. God removes control so trust can grow. Rewards given to people who cannot trust God often become burdens instead of blessings. Another removal is emotional dependence. God pulls away constant affirmation, so your confidence can root itself in Him instead of people. In daily life, a student who relies only on praise struggles when feedback stops. But one who learns self-motivation excels under pressure. God removes applause before reward, so your identity does not collapse when criticism comes with success. God removes distractions as well. Many times, things that are not sinful still need to be removed because they consume focus. In daily life, successful people guard their time fiercely. They say no to good things to say yes to great ones. God removes distractions so your attention can align with purpose. Rewards require clarity, and clarity cannot exist in chaos. Sometimes God removes your backup plans. This is uncomfortable because it forces full reliance on Him. In everyday life, people perform differently when there is no safety net. Commitment increases when escape routes disappear. God removes alternatives, so obedience becomes absolute. Partial trust produces partial results. God also removes pride through humbling experiences. Promotion without humility leads to destruction. In daily life, leaders who skip foundational training often fail under pressure. God allows humbling seasons to stabilize your character. What feels like being lowered is actually being rooted. Deep roots support tall trees. Even resources can be removed temporarily. Money dries up, support fades, opportunities pause. This is not punishment, it is instruction. In daily life, when fuel is low, drivers become more careful and intentional. God removes excess so wisdom can develop. Those who learn stewardship in lack are trusted with abundance. The most powerful truth is this: God never removes without intent to replace. Every removal carries a reward inside it. Loss is not the end, it is the exchange point. What God takes away was either blocking you, limiting you, or distracting you from what is coming. Removal is not rejection, it is redirection. When things start leaving your life, do not panic. Do not beg God to restore what He intentionally removed. Trust the process. In daily life, renovation always looks worse before it looks better. Walls are broken, dust fills the air, noise increases. But once the work is done, the space is transformed. God removes you from environments that cannot support your next level. He removes voices that would confuse your discernment. He removes stability that would keep you stagnant. Every removal is an announcement that reward is near. What feels like subtraction is actually preparation for multiplication. What feels like loss is alignment. What feels like delay is design. When God removes, He's not emptying your life. He is making room for what you prayed for. Voices shape direction long before decisions do. What you listen to repeatedly becomes the blueprint of how you think, act, spend, save, and believe. Financial flow is not blocked first by lack of money, but by wrong influence. In daily life, no river stops because water refuses to move. Rivers stop when something blocks the channel. In the same way, financial flow slows down when voices fill your mind with fear, limitation, and confusion. God is deeply intentional about the voices around you because money responds to mindset before it responds to effort. Think about how a child learns. A child who constantly hears, "We can't afford," that grows into an adult who avoids opportunity even when resources exist. Words spoken in the ear become walls in the mind. In daily families, you see it clearly. One sibling grows up hearing encouragement and courage, another grows up hearing criticism and caution. Years later, their financial behaviors are completely different. God removes wrong voices because He knows that abundance cannot live in a mind trained by scarcity talk. Wrong voices do not always sound negative. Some sound loving, protective, and reasonable. Be careful. Don't take risks. People like us don't do that. These words sound wise, but they quietly kill expansion. In daily life, many talented people stay underpaid, not because they lack skill, but because someone once told them to be realistic. God blocks these voices because realism without faith becomes limitation. Financial flow requires vision beyond present evidence. Wrong voices also normalize fear. When everyone around you is afraid of failing, failing feels dangerous. In daily workplaces, teams that fear mistakes never innovate. They stay safe and small. God cannot pour financial increase into a mindset that panics at uncertainty. That is why He isolates you from fearful voices. Faith and fear cannot occupy the same mental space for long. Sometimes the wrong voices are familiar voices. Friends who knew you before growth often speak from memory, not destiny. They remind you of who you were, not who you are becoming. In daily life, people often resist change in others because it disrupts their comfort. God removes you from these voices because financial growth demands identity upgrade. You cannot manage new money with an old self-image. Wrong voices also distort priorities. They teach spending instead of stewardship, appearance instead of value, speed instead of wisdom. In daily culture, social pressure pushes people to buy things they cannot afford to impress people who do not care. God blocks these voices because debt created by image destroys peace. Financial flow requires discipline, not comparison. Another dangerous voice is constant opinion. Too many opinions paralyze action. In daily life, someone who asks everyone for advice often ends up doing nothing. Financial momentum requires decisiveness. God reduces voices so clarity can increase. When fewer voices speak, direction becomes sharper. Wrong voices also glorify shortcuts. They encourage quick money without character, fast success without foundation. In daily examples, people chase trends, schemes, and hype only to collapse later. God blocks these voices because sustainable wealth grows slowly. He would rather delay you than destroy you. Even your own inner voice can block financial flow. Self-talk shaped by past failure becomes a ceiling. In daily life, someone who keeps saying, "I'm bad with money," unconsciously avoids learning. God removes external noise so He can reprogram internal dialogue. Financial flow increases when your inner voice aligns with truth instead of trauma. Wrong spiritual voices can also block flow. Messages that glorify poverty as humility or shame wealth as evil create internal conflict. In daily life, people struggle financially not because God withholds, but because they feel guilty desiring provision. God removes confusing spiritual voices so belief can align with blessing. Wrong voices drain energy. Constant complaining, negativity, and drama consume mental resources needed for creativity and strategy. In daily life, after long exposure to negativity, motivation drops. God protects your energy by limiting access to draining conversations. Financial flow requires emotional stability. When God begins to block certain voices, it can feel isolating. Conversations fade, Invitations stop. Communication reduces. This is not rejection, it is filtration. God is protecting the channel through which provision flows. Silence is often the sound of alignment. Financial flow is sensitive. It follows peace, clarity, discipline, and vision. Wrong voices disrupt all four. That is why God guards your ears before He grows your income. What enters your mind determines what exits your hands. When the wrong voices are removed, decision-making becomes lighter. Courage increases, focus sharpens, faith strengthens. Suddenly ideas make sense. Opportunities feel reachable. The flow begins not because money appears, but because resistance disappears. God is not trying to control who speaks to you. He is trying to protect what flows through you. Silence is not weakness, it is weight. In daily. The most influential people are rarely the loudest in the room. They speak less, but when they speak, everyone listens. Spiritual authority is built the same way. When God teaches you silence, He is not muting you, He is deepening you. Noise seeks attention, but silence carries presence. Authority is not created by how much you say, but by how much substance stands behind your words. Think about everyday conversations. Someone who talks constantly often explains themselves too much, defends themselves too often, and reacts emotionally. Over time, people stop taking their words seriously. But the person who listens more than they speak develops discernment. Their words become intentional, measured, and powerful. God trains His people in silence because authority requires control over the tongue before control over outcomes. Silence builds inner strength. In daily life, when you resist the urge to respond immediately, emotions settle and clarity rises. Many conflicts escalate not because of truth, but because of timing. God uses silence to teach you mastery over impulse. When you no longer need to react to everything, you begin to rule over your inner world. Spiritual authority begins with self-governance. Silence also sharpens hearing. In a noisy environment, even important instructions are missed. In daily routines, when notifications are turned off, focus improves instantly. God reduces noise in your life so you can hear Him clearly. Authority flows from obedience, and obedience depends on hearing. When you become comfortable with silence, divine instruction becomes clearer. In everyday leadership, managers who speak less but observe more often make better decisions. They notice patterns others miss. God uses silence to turn you into an observer rather than a reactor. Observation builds wisdom. Wisdom builds authority. When you stop filling every moment with H words, your perception expands. Silence trains humility. Talking often centers attention on self, but silence shifts attention to understanding. In daily friendships, people trust those who listen without interrupting. God builds authority through trust. When others feel heard around you, your influence grows naturally. Authority that is forced fades quickly. Authority that is respected lasts. Silence also protects energy. Words consume emotional fuel. In daily life, after long arguments or explanations, exhaustion follows. God teaches silence to preserve strength for moments that matter. Spiritual authority requires endurance. Those who waste energy on unnecessary speech lack stamina for crucial battles. Silence reveals character. When you stop explaining yourself, your life begins to speak. In daily work environments, results silence criticism faster than arguments. God builds authority through consistency, not commentary. When your actions align with your values, words become unnecessary. Authority increases when integrity is visible. Silence breaks the addiction to validation. Many people speak to be seen, heard, or affirmed. God removes that dependency through silence. In daily life, someone who needs constant approval struggles to lead. Authority requires independence from opinions. When silence becomes comfortable, confidence becomes internal. Silence also invites reflection. In busy lives, reflection is rare, but reflection produces growth. In daily routines, moments of quiet reveal mistakes, patterns, and opportunities. God uses silence to refine you. Authority grows when correction is embraced privately rather than exposed publicly. Silence strengthens emotional intelligence. When you pause before speaking, you sense the room, the mood, and the timing. In daily negotiations, timing often matters more than content. God develops your sensitivity through silence. Authority is not just truth, it is truth delivered wisely. Silence builds mystery. In daily interactions, people respect what they cannot easily predict. Oversharing reduces impact. God uses silence to make your presence weighty. When you do speak, curiosity rises. Authority increases when words are rare but relevant. Silence teaches patience. Immediate responses often come from insecurity or fear. In daily life, patience is linked to maturity. God builds authority by slowing your reactions. Those who wait speak with depth. Those who rush speak with regret. Silence also disarms opposition. Arguments fuel resistance. Quiet confidence diffuses it. In daily conflicts, calm silence often ends debates faster than loud defense. God builds authority by teaching you not to fight every battle. Discernment decides when to speak and when to stay quiet. Silence deepens faith. When there are no words, trust grows. In daily uncertainty, silence forces reliance on God rather than explanation. Authority flows from trust. When you trust God enough to be silent, He speaks on your behalf. Silence aligns you with timing. Words spoken too early lose power. In daily planning, premature announcements create pressure. God teaches silence so your actions mature before exposure. Authority comes when results appear without excessive announcement. Silence refines intention. Speaking often reveals motives. Silence purifies them. In daily decisions, when you stop narrating your plans, clarity increases. God builds authority by cleansing intention before action. Silence builds presence. When you enter a room quietly, attention shifts naturally. In daily life, presence commands respect more than volume. God builds spiritual authority by increasing your presence through silence. Silence matures discernment. Not everything deserves a response. In daily communication, selective speak reflects wisdom. God trains you to speak from conviction, not emotion. Silence strengthens prayer life. Words reduce, listening increases. In daily spirituality, listening transforms prayer into relationship. Authority flows from intimacy. Silence removes unnecessary battles. In daily life, silence saves time, energy, and peace. God builds authority by teaching you to choose battles wisely. Silence creates alignment between heart, mind, and spirit. When inner noise reduces, inner order forms. Authority emerges from inner order. Silence is where God deposits depth. Depth produces weight. Weight produces authority. Loneliness is often misunderstood as absence, but in truth, it is a refining space. When people step away and noise fades, what remains is who you really are. Character is not formed in crowds, it is revealed in solitude. In daily life, when no one is watching, no one is applauding, and no one is correcting you, your true values surface. God allows loneliness not to weaken you, but to strip away borrowed identities and expose the core of your being. Think about everyday routines. When you are surrounded by people, your behavior often adjusts to fit the environment. You laugh at jokes you don't enjoy, agree with opinions you don't believe, and compromise small principles to belong. Loneliness removes that pressure. Alone, you face your own thoughts without filters. This is where character begins to solidify, because integrity is what you do when no one is there to reward or punish you. Loneliness teaches responsibility. In daily life, when there is no one to rely on, excuses disappear. You wake yourself up, motivate yourself, and push yourself forward. A person who learns to function alone becomes reliable anywhere. God refines character by removing constant support so strength can form internally. Dependence shifts from people to discipline. Loneliness also reveals emotional maturity. When friends are absent, unresolved emotions surface. In daily life, many people stay busy to avoid dealing with pain, fear, or disappointment. Loneliness forces confrontation. You either heal or harden. God uses loneliness to heal, shaping emotional stability that will later be required in leadership, relationships, and success. In daily work life, individuals who spend time alone mastering their craft often outperform those constantly surrounded by others. Skill is refined in isolation. Loneliness creates space for focus. Character includes diligence, patience, and excellence, and these qualities grow when distractions reduce. God refines character by giving you uninterrupted time with your calling. Loneliness strengthens decision-making. Without constant opinions, you learn to trust your judgment. In daily life, people who are always surrounded by voices struggle to decide independently. Loneliness builds confidence in discernment. God refines character by training you to stand by your convictions, even when no one agrees. Loneliness also exposes pride. When no one is praising you, the need for validation is tested. In daily life, many people lose motivation without applause. Loneliness asks a hard question: will you continue doing right when no one notices? God refines character by disconnecting you from external validation so inner conviction can grow. Loneliness builds patience. Time moves slower when you are alone. In daily life, waiting becomes uncomfortable without distraction. God uses this discomfort to stretch patience. Character that lacks patience collapses under pressure. Loneliness teaches you to endure without complaining. Loneliness sharpens self-awareness. Without constant interaction, patterns become visible. You notice habits, weaknesses, and strengths more clearly. In daily life, reflection rarely happens. In busy environments, God refines character by giving you quiet space to grow consciously rather than accidentally. Loneliness also deepens empathy. When you experience isolation, you become more sensitive to others who feel unseen. In daily interactions, those who have known loneliness listen better and judge less. God refines character so compassion becomes natural, not forced. Loneliness teaches humility. When no one is around to affirm your importance, ego softens. In daily life, humility develops when you realize you are still valuable even without attention. God refines character by separating worth from recognition. Loneliness builds resilience. In daily challenges, those who have survived solitude handle pressure better. They are not shaken by absence because they learn to stand alone. God refines character so you are not emotionally dependent on presence. Loneliness also trains gratitude. When companionship is limited, small blessings become noticeable. In daily life, appreciation grows in quiet moments. God refines character by tuning your heart to recognize grace in simplicity. Loneliness strengthens boundaries. You learn what drains you and what restores you. In daily life, time alone clarifies limits. God refines character so future relationships are healthier and more intentional. Loneliness purifies intention. Without audience, motives become clear. In daily actions, you discover whether you act from love, fear, or ambition. God refines character by aligning intention with truth. Loneliness deepens faith. When people are absent, reliance shifts. In daily uncertainty, trust grows stronger when options are fewer. God refines character by anchoring you in something unshakable. Loneliness slows you down. In daily life, slowness reveals depth. God refines character by teaching you to value growth over speed. Loneliness prepares you for connection. Those who know how to be alone connect better when people return. In daily relationships, they bring wholeness instead of neediness. God refines character so future connections are rooted in strength. Loneliness reveals endurance. When nothing changes quickly, perseverance forms. In daily life, endurance is a rare strength. God refines character by stretching your capacity to remain steady. Loneliness builds inner peace. When you learn to sit with yourself, chaos loses control. In daily life, inner peace becomes a powerful anchor. God refines character by forming peace that does not depend on circumstance. Loneliness is not a void, it is a workshop where character is quietly shaped. Isolation is not emptiness, it is a creative chamber. When God separates you, He is not reducing your life, He is refining your focus. Divine ideas rarely arrive in noise. They are born in stillness, shaped in silence, and matured in solitude. In daily life, the most meaningful ideas often come when the phone is off, the room is quiet, and the mind is unhurried. God uses isolation to quiet external influence so internal inspiration can rise. Think about everyday creativity. Writers retreat to quiet places to finish books. Inventors step away from crowds to solve problems. Students perform best when distractions are removed. Isolation is not accidental, it is intentional design. God removes you from constant conversation because too many voices drown out the whisper where ideas are formed. Isolation sharpens perception. In busy environments, attention is scattered. In solitude, attention converges. In daily routines, when you sit alone with a problem long enough, clarity emerges. God produces divine ideas by allowing you to sit with questions instead of escaping them. Ideas grow when patience replaces pressure. Isolation also breaks imitation. When surrounded by others, it is easy to copy rather than create. In daily life, trends dominate crowded spaces. Isolation forces originality. God removes you from the crowd so you stop borrowing ideas and start receiving direction. Divine ideas are unique, not duplicated. Isolation trains deep thinking. Surface thinking thrives in noise. Depth requires quiet. In daily life, multitasking reduces quality. Single focus increases insight. God produces divine ideas by slowing your pace. When urgency fades, wisdom rises. Isolation also builds courage to trust inner conviction. In daily life, people often abandon good ideas because others doubt them. Isolation removes external validation so faith can develop. God produces divine ideas and then strengthens your confidence to carry them without applause. Isolation refines purpose. When you are alone, you begin asking better questions. Why am I here? What problem am I called to solve? In daily life, purpose becomes clearer when distractions fall away. God uses isolation to align ideas with assignment. Isolation increases sensitivity. Without constant stimulation, intuition sharpens. In daily life, quiet improves awareness. God produces divine ideas by heightening spiritual sensitivity. You notice connections others miss. Insight flows more freely. Isolation also teaches stewardship of thought. When fewer ideas compete for attention, focus deepens. In daily life, cluttered minds struggle to innovate. God clears mental space through isolation so divine concepts can take root. Isolation removes fear of judgment. Creativity dies when evaluation dominates. In daily life, people think more freely when alone. God produces divine ideas in isolation because faith flourishes without comparison. Isolation builds discipline. Ideas require structure to survive. In daily life, routines established in solitude create consistency. God produces divine ideas and then trains why. To nurture them through disciplined habits, isolation transforms waiting into thinking. Instead of impatience, reflection grows. In daily life, waiting becomes productive when used for planning. God produces divine ideas by redeeming time others waste. Isolation also reveals hidden talents. Without external roles, you explore abilities you ignored. In daily life, hobbies discovered alone often become callings. God produces divine ideas by uncovering dormant gifts. Isolation deepens imagination. Constant input limits imagination. In daily life, imagination thrives in quiet. God produces divine ideas by allowing your mind to wander purposefully. Isolation strengthens problem solving. When no one else can fix it, creativity activates. In daily life, independence breeds innovation. God produces divine ideas by placing you where solutions must come from within. Isolation also builds resilience for execution. Ideas are fragile. Isolation teaches patience to protect them. In daily life, those who incubate ideas privately succeed publicly. God produces divine ideas and shelters them until ready. Isolation refines timing. Not every idea is for now. In daily life, solitude teaches discernment. God produces divine ideas and aligns them with the right moment. Isolation clarifies values. Ideas aligned with values endure. In daily life, clarity grows in quiet. God produces divine ideas that reflect who you are becoming. Isolation removes noise that distorts creativity. In daily life, simplicity enhances quality. God produces divine ideas by simplifying your environment. Isolation strengthens ownership. When you labor alone, ideas become personal. In daily life, ownership increases commitment. God produces divine ideas and ties them to responsibility. Isolation cultivates vision. Vision sees beyond present conditions. In daily life, vision expands in solitude. God produces divine ideas by lifting your perspective. Isolation builds patience to wait for manifestation. Ideas mature in silence. In daily life, patience protects growth. God produces divine ideas and guards them through isolation. Isolation aligns thought, faith, and action. When inner harmony forms, creativity flows. God produces divine ideas by bringing order to your inner world. Isolation is not absence, it is alignment where heaven speaks clearly and creativity responds. God rarely begins with abundance, He begins with assessment. Before increase comes inspection. Stewardship is not proven when much is given, but when little is managed well. In daily life, trust is never built by grand promises, but by small, consistent actions. God tests stewardship in small things because small things reveal truth without pressure. When nothing is impressive, motives are pure. When nothing is visible, integrity is honest. Think about everyday responsibilities. A person who is careless with borrowed items will never be trusted with ownership. If someone returns a pen broken or a book late, it quietly communicates how they would handle something greater. In the same way, God watches how you treat what seems insignificant. A small opportunity handled with excellence becomes evidence that you are ready for more. Small things reveal priorities. In daily routines, how you manage a few minutes shows how you would manage hours. Someone who wastes 10 minutes repeatedly will waste 10 years without noticing. God tests stewardship in time before He entrusts destiny. Faithfulness in small schedules builds capacity for larger assignments. Money is another daily example. A person who cannot manage a small amount will struggle with a large one. In everyday life, people believe more money will solve poor habits, but money only magnifies behavior. God tests stewardship through small finances to protect you from self-destruction. If peace cannot be maintained with little, abundance will not bring peace either. God also tests stewardship through small responsibilities, simple tasks, unnoticed roles, quiet duties. In daily workplaces, employees who handle minor tasks with care often become leaders. Not because the task was big, but because their attitude was. God watches how you serve when no one is watching. Because leadership begins in unseen places. Relationships reveal stewardship too. How you treat one person reflects how you would treat many. In daily life, kindness in private predicts compassion in public. God tests stewardship in small interactions to measure your heart. Influence without love becomes damage. God tests stewardship in thoughts. What you think repeatedly becomes who you become eventually. In daily life, someone who disciplines their thoughts shapes their future. God observes how you manage small thought patterns before entrusting you with big visions. A mind that wanders cannot sustain purpose. Even words are a test. How you speak in casual moments reveals character. In daily conversations, careless words destroy trust. God tests stewardship in speech before releasing authority. Words create environments, and environments determine outcomes. God also tests stewardship in consistency. Small habits practiced daily shape destiny. In daily life, brushing teeth seems small, but neglect produces damage. God values consistency because consistency proves discipline. Big moments are sustained by small habits. Waiting is another test. How you wait reveals maturity. In daily life, impatience leads to shortcuts. God tests stewardship by delaying outcomes to see if faith remains steady. A person who panics under delay will mismanage speed. God tests stewardship in gratitude. How you appreciate small blessings shows how you would honor large O. In daily life, those who complain with little will complain with much. God watches gratitude because gratitude protects blessing. God also tests stewardship in obedience. Small instructions matter. In daily life, following simple rules builds trust. God tests obedience in small commands to see if you can follow direction without explanation. Big blessings often come with complex instructions. God tests stewardship in rest. How you handle rest reveals balance. In daily life, burnout comes from ignoring limits. God tests stewardship by observing whether you honor boundaries. Sustainable success requires rest. God tests stewardship in focus. How you handle one assignment shows readiness for many. In daily life, multitasking often reduces quality. God tests stewardship by watching how well you complete small tasks before multiplying responsibilities. God tests stewardship in humility. Small roles keep pride in check. In daily life, arrogance grows quickly when unchallenged. God tests stewardship by keeping you small long enough to stay grounded. God tests stewardship in learning. Will you grow even when the lesson feels basic? In daily life, those who refuse foundational learning struggle later. God watches willingness to learn because growth never stops. God tests stewardship in resilience. How you respond to small setbacks reveals endurance. In daily life, small frustrations prepare you for big pressures. God tests perseverance quietly before promotion publicly. God tests stewardship in discipline. Small sacrifices build strength. In daily life, choosing discipline over comfort produces progress. God tests stewardship by watching daily choices. God tests stewardship in honesty. Small lies reveal big cracks. In daily life, trust erodes quietly. God tests truthfulness in small matters because truth sustains blessing. God tests stewardship in faithfulness. Owing up consistently matters. In daily life, reliability builds credibility. God tests faithfulness before releasing favor. God tests stewardship in stewardship itself. How you manage what you have determines what you receive. Small things are not small to God, they are mirrors of readiness. What you are experiencing right now is not random, and it is not wasted. Heaven does nothing casually. Every delay, every quiet season, every small responsibility has been watching you. While people measured you by results, God measured you by faithfulness. While others looked for applause, God looked for obedience. And now, what was hidden is about to be honored. Remember this truth and let it settle deep in your spirit. Greatness is never given suddenly. It is revealed eventually. What you manage in secret determines what you are trusted with in public. You were never ignored. You were inspected. You were never forgotten. You were being prepared. What feels small in your hands today is proof that God believes you can handle more tomorrow. There's a powerful saying that echoes through generations. If you are faithful with little, you will be entrusted with much. This is not poetry, it is a spiritual law. Another timeless wisdom reminds us, how you do the small things is how you do everything. God watched how you handled what no one clapped for, how you stayed honest when compromise was easy, how you stayed disciplined when quitting would have been justified. That is why your future cannot be ordinary. Do not despise the season that shaped you. Do not belittle the days that trained you. The same God who saw you manage the few coins, the few connections, the few opportunities, is the God who will release overflow without apology. And when it comes, it will not destroy you because you were trained before you were trusted. Let this truth ignite courage in you. Preparation is proof that promotion is planned. You were not delayed, you were developed. You were not overlooked, you were protected. You were not kept small, you were kept safe until your strength matched your calling. As one powerful voice once said, before God increases your visibility, He increases your stability. When the reward arrives, people will say it happened suddenly, but you will know the truth. You will remember the discipline when no one was watching, the consistency when no one was cheering, the obedience when no one understood. You will know that every small thing carried a seed, and every seed waited for the right season. Stand firm in this confidence. What you honor today will honor you tomorrow. What you protect today will protect you tomorrow. What you steward well today will multiply beyond expectation tomorrow. God does not promote potential, He promotes proven faithfulness. So lift your head, straighten your posture, strengthen your resolve. You are closer than you think. The test is almost complete, and the reward is already prepared. As wisdom has declared for generations, those who are trusted with little become rulers over much. And another timeless truth whispers hope into your spirit. Your consistency is speaking louder than your prayers. Walk forward with excellence. Handle what is in your hands with reverence. Serve where you are with joy. Because the God who tested you quietly is about to reward you openly. And when He does, no one will be able to deny that your increase came with character, your blessing came with wisdom, and your elevation came with authority.